Hi, my name is Abigail Dantzler Woodruff, and today I'm going to be presenting over the Swedish language. So the first question I'm going to answer is, where is this language found? So this language is actually North Germanic, or it's kind of a Scandinavian language, specifically East Scandinavian, or Indo-European, kind of in the Northern Europe area. So the language itself is very prominent in the surrounding countries, and with immigrants who immigrate to the country itself. So you could definitely see Swedish being popular in Norway, Finland, and places such as that. So next I'm going to be covering the aspects of the language. So the languages related to Swedish would be such as Danish and Norwegian, Icelandic, and languages that are also like Scandinavian. There are approximately 12,362,250 speakers. So that's quite a large number, but not as large as some other languages. The level of endangerment, I would kind of rank it in a mid-level, which I'll explain here in a second why. So the current threats to the health of the language are such as the English development and immigration. So with English becoming such a popular language and actually like a common practice in other countries, though it's not their native tongue, that's become a big problem lately. Whenever immigrants move over to Sweden, they actually don't end up learning Swedish at all, such as immigrants who maybe move over to America and they learn some English. They don't actually end up learning any of Swedish, and so they end up speaking their native tongue, which creates that barrier. So I definitely would say that was a problem. But because of the threats to that language, the native speakers, such as the Sami, the Kayon, the Meänkieli, and the Tornedalians, they are becoming the minorities, and they're actually the natives, the original people. And so that kind of brings to the point of the revitalization. Sweden and some of the surrounding countries are kind of getting into this way of trying to incorporate multilingualism into its immigration movements and into its education. So they are trying to be able to get people who move to the country, or even people who are born and raised in the country, to learn somewhat amount of Swedish, be able to still keep their native tongue, and maybe even be able to learn another language to keep up more diversity. So definitely would say that they're huge in revitalizing Swedish and bringing it back to its roots. Okay, so now on to the description of the language and its language features. The writing itself has the same letters of the English alphabet along with 3 others. So if you look at the picture above on the screen, you have the A with the open circle, the A with the 2 closed circle dots, and the O's with the 2 closed circle dots. The A with the open circle has the same sound as the AU sound in English for Paul or poor, but kind of more of an English accent in there, the British accent a bit there, because it is in North Europe. Then the A with the 2 closed circle dots has the same kind of I sound, such as in pear or hair, but still with more of an accent in there. And the O with the 2 closed circle dots has kind of a different sound depending in context. So it could have the I sound, such as in bird, the U sound that you have when you say fur, or the EA sound you have in heard. just depends on context. So that's something that can be a bit tricky about the language. So now on to phonology and morphology interestingness. So Swedish actually is very similar to English in terms of conditions on article use, such as the language itself has definite and indefinite articles. The definite articles are postnominal, though, compared to prenominal in English. The definite articles in Swedish fit the trigoric pattern, while indefinite articles don't. Swedish writing actually came from quote-unquote general grammar in the 19th century. That term was kind of generalized by two linguists from Sweden called Sylvester de Stray and Konodelic. So that is definitely something that's happened because most of the major terms and conditions of the language were really starting to become of interest during the 19th century. Okay, so linguists' opinions about the language. Well, there is kind of this interesting fact I'm going to include before I get really into it. Some Swedish linguists who made jokes about the language being so old, such as like the Vikings, that it actually was the language of the Garden of Eden, quote unquote. And so they joke about it being the language of paradise. It's kind of just a joke between some of the sociolinguists in Sweden. Not sure if many of you have ever heard of that. It was something new to me. And it's actually sociolinguists have become really studying in Sweden. There are tons of major academies, such as in South Stockholm, that have become big on research on sociolinguists in Sweden. There's so many interesting dialects that come from native tongues and immigrants who have had to learn the language. So it definitely has, the analysis of morphology has become important, and there's a big interest in how the early grammar is actually translated from Latin, as many other languages have. So how has the language changed? Dialects have advanced greatly, and have definitely had more widespreadness, I guess you could say, due to that immigration and the minority groups changing. As it is with any other language, the more diversity you have, the more dialects you have. And with kind of the immigrants taking over the natives, it definitely has led to a change in dialects and who has the powerful speech within the Swedish language. Okay, so now for some of my closing information. I thought I'd include some of the interesting vocabulary I've learned recently in Swedish. So these are just some of my favorite words. There's this word called fika, and it means coffee break. Monogata, which means moonbeam. And shakarana, or star. These are just some of the fun words that make the Swedish language something interesting and vibrant and something for a change. Anyway, I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will love to see your guys' comments in the discussion board. Thank you again.